It's Monday and time for the Back to Business podcast, featuring Calgary's industry leaders. Welcome today's show host, Kim Hayden.
We've had a lot of talk on this show around biohacking and the advancement of technology and technology investment here in Calgary, what we're doing to make life better. Sabina Bruehlmann is kind of bringing that all together. And we're going to get an inside track as to some brand new research and technology that's literally going to set the world on its ear and resolve some of those cranky things that have us maybe not feeling the best. But first, our land acknowledgement. We here at the Calgary Petroleum Club, in the spirit of reconciliation, honor and acknowledge that the land on which we learn, work, and live is Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. This place is the traditional homeland for the First Nations and Métis peoples, and today we all are part of this treaty land. All righty, Sabina, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
This is going to be a fun one. So I think we're going to dub the show Getting Our Poop in a Group. We're going to learn some things today. I'm pretty excited.
I turn some theories on their head and learn some new things.
What I'd love you to do is share a little bit what you are doing and working on today.
Yeah, we have a company here in Calgary called Nimble Science. We've been working on it for about 5 years. We work with companies around the world to get them first access to the small intestine. So we hear a lot about gut microbiome. We hear a lot about gut-brain access. We hear a lot about GI issues and all the challenges we have, and so many people suffering from IBS and IBD and SIBO and not getting clear answers and not having a clear path to care. So we're coming at that challenge by enabling access to the actual fluid. It's like a biopsy. You know, if you go into a hospital and you get a tube down your throat and then you go way down and they grab a sample, we get that type of quality of sample from your gastrointestinal system, but you take it with a little pill at home. So you swallow the pill transits, collects an endoscopy-quality sample, and then from there we can learn all kinds of things that were never accessible, because you're not going to go to a hospital and get an endoscopy if you're healthy. So we don't know what healthy looks like in the gastrointestinal system. And you're not going to go to the hospital and get an endoscopy if you ate a protein smoothie and they want to know what happens when you eat that protein smoothie, or if that's a good smoothie for you. And you're not even going to get it if you're suffering from GI disorders. It's really tough. The lineups are really long and access is really difficult. And so what the world has done is developed a lot of information from poop.
Yeah.
And we've kind of forgotten that poop is not necessarily the true small intestinal microbiome. And the small intestine is a really big job. It's where your food's getting absorbed. It's where your drugs are acting. It's where a lot of diseases like diabetes and things we don't even associate with the gut are really having a big impact. And so we got to get there. It's crazy. It's really, you're going to ask me at some point in the podcast.
I'm going to ask, well, what I want to know is, so you said they swallow the capsule.
Yeah.
What's in the capsule?
Nothing. It's just like a piece of Lego before Lego got fancy. It's just a plastic casing in a traditional sort of shell that you would swallow like a typical pill. And then it opens and closes without any electronics or batteries. It just has a very simple little mechanism on it made of a dissolvable component that's a food product. It opens, closes, seals, grabs an endoscopy sample, aspirate sample. So we call that the fluid. It's a very clear fluid, like you would expect in your small intestine. So this is not poop. This is not feces. This is a new material from the body that the world has never really gotten a chance to get to know. Yet we know that it's critical for just about every process in our body.
Every process. Oh, and this has me, so I've met more people with IBS and Crohn's.
Mm-hmm.
Is Crohn's part of this where we're going to be able to get maybe some better understanding?
Yeah. So Crohn's is, IBD, Crohn's, colitis is typically thought of as a colonic. But even we have some capsules that sample in the colon. That's not the same as poop either. It's a little closer, but it's not quite the same. And there's a part of Crohn's colitis that occurs in the small intestinal. So yes, we work actively at collecting samples and trying to understand IBD. we're very focused on IBS because there's a massive need there.
Yeah, I have a sister that has dealt with IBS, and we've she's a bit more, she's very kind of type A. She tends to run a little more, she's very focused on the answer. She's a smart woman.
And
so
it's a tough one.
She runs a little bit higher on like maybe the anxiety or the intensity side of things.
Yeah.
So we always go, well, is that what's causing the IBS? Is it food that's like milk products, or always trying to figure that out? And all I know is that if we go on a road trip, we need to literally chart out where all the bathrooms are.
Yeah, it's horrible. And there's so few answers that are given. And we're doing a world's first class study. We're doing it with one of the greatest scientific minds in IBS, Dr. Eamon Quigley down at Houston Methodist. And we're doing it with a company that's developed probiotics specifically to help treat IBS, Lallemande Health Solutions. And so this study is allowing them to see how their probiotic is actually working in this part that previously has been out of reach. So they're looking for some real evidence of efficacy. And at the same time, we're going to put our endoscopic sample that we're hoping can diagnose IBS more specifically against the current gold standards of breath testing, which is known to be a very erratic type of diagnostic tool. So participants in that study here locally and across Canada get access to an IBS diagnostic, a first-in-class diagnostic with the endoscopic material that we're collecting, and then a probiotic test. So there's a lot of cool stuff to be done.
And as somebody, like I said, as somebody who I've watched my little sister struggle with this her entire life, it literally, these types of things will impact an entire evening when you're going out with friends, all the way from when you book that evening 3 days prior to getting ready, to pre-planning, even looking on the menu of where you're going.
Yep.
Right? And making sure you have an exit strategy.
And when you ask them about their what experience they've had with the physicians, although there's a lot of care and attention towards that, 10% of doctors' visits are people struggling with IBS. There's so few answers that or tools that they can get.
They start, well, is it something you ate? Is it this? Is it that? Is it emotional? Like all these things go into it. Yet there's never been an answer.
That's right. So we're trying. Tell your sister to give us a call.
I will do that. My sister was super
We will give her
smart.
a ton of information.
She would,
and it'll help us get better tools.
That would be amazing. I want to go to probiotics. Now, I had a funny scenario with probiotics and just learning about them back when I was about 25. And that's a long time ago. But and it came from getting a little puppy from a farm, right? We got this puppy. It was the runt of the litter. It was sick. I didn't know this, but it was so stinking cute. I love this dog. So we bring this dog home, and it has basically IBS. It is sick.
Yeah, it happens in dogs for sure.
It is sick. We take it to the vet, and they keep the dog for 3 days. They think they have it figured out. Bring the dog home. It's still sick. We're trying to get it figured out. So we go up to the local little dog food, animal, like little pet store up on the main street. We lived in Toronto at the time, up on Lakeshore Drive. Just this little mom and pop shop. It was so cute. And I'm talking to this guy who has been in this business 30 years. He goes, don't buy any of this. I want you to go buy raw probiotic yogurt. And this is what you're going to do.
Sure.
48 hours later and $3 versus the 2 days at the vet clinic and $400. Dog was fixed. Dog was fixed. Why? What are probiotics? Why are they important? And why do we want to know how they work within the intestine? Because I'm still a little lost.
Well, probiotics have the potential to repopulate, modulate your gut microbiome. So so you're the bacteria within your small intestine, within the entire gastrointestinal tract. It's important who's there. Some of them are not so good. Some of them are good. And the balance of who's there is really what's important. And so probiotics, prebiotics, these are aiming to help support that population. Maybe you need a little more of this, or you need a little more of the other thing. The problem with probiotics is, And first of all, the companies, we work with probiotic companies around the world. They want to do well. They want to help. They try really hard to get, top notch. I think probiotics get a really bad name. But there's a lot of challenges because they can't test their product very well. So they have to test it in the poop.
And this is where what you're doing.
And maybe you see a signal and maybe you don't. So we're trying to test with our device, we're able to get into that place where these probiotics act. And we're able to say, did you get there alive? Are you repopulating? How long is it lasting? What good are you able to do? And so that's one of our main customers is working with probiotics companies and prebiotics companies and postbiotic companies and all the different biopharma that are trying to help regain control of these bacterial populations. Because you take antibiotics and you wipe it out. And it regrows, but how does it regrow? There's so many questions that we don't have. So our device is used within research studies, testing probiotics and all kinds of other drugs and food products, trying to understand what they do. And then we're also going to bring it to the clinic so that IBS patients and others can get themselves tested.
So tell me a bit about that process, especially working here in Calgary, right? We tend to think, I think Canadians tend to think that all big research, like all big movies, must be made in Vancouver or Toronto.
No, yeah.
Why Calgary? Why are you here? What is it that is helping you move forward on this initiative?
Well, the Calgary tech ecosystem, as you hopefully have covered on this podcast before, is really thriving. And so we're still a small fish, but we're a global player. But we get a lot of support from the ecosystem around us. When I first started the first company back in 2010, we were literally alone. There was no support in the ecosystem. We were this weird little anomaly of a startup company. But now the supports from Platform Calgary to Life Sciences Innovation Hub, even things like the Calgary Petroleum Club and the work that they do to help build business leaders among these smaller companies is really transformative. So that ecosystem is unlike, I think, any other in Canada. And I get calls from investors all the time asking me, how can they get in on it? Who can they invest in? What's happening? Who should they be lining up with? And it's really exciting. So that's been fantastic. And then the health system in Alberta is very unique and offers a lot of opportunity to collaborate with AHS and unroll programs and do research. And then the research at the universities is top notch, especially for biomedical engineering at both U of A and U of C.
You've mentioned this is not your first foray into biomedical and this research, re-engineering the way we live. You have done this once previously that I'm aware of, probably more than that.
Yeah.
But in sleep, everybody talks about sleep apnea. We now have special mattresses around it. It's everybody talks about it, right?
I think I've touched on the two biggest issues: sleep apnea, microbiome.
But we don't talk about microbiome. How do we say that again?
Microbiome.
Yeah, I can say that.
Yeah.
Okay. Or fecal, or whatever word you want to use.
Yeah.
It depends on the day what word you use, right? What is it from the evolution over the last, I would say 15 years, that real high focus on our quality of sleep? We now have apps on it. We have everything. What would you like to see to come from that study, that interest, that field over into the acceptance or expansion of microbiome?
Yeah, so let's talk about biohackers, right? Because that's really what we have. We have new tools. We can measure everything. We can document things. We can pool data together. We can learn things from that pool data, right? We got AI playing on all these different complex data sets. We have the opportunity, unlike ever before in history, to really take charge of our own health and understand what's happening, get to know our body more than just a scale or the color of our skin, which is what we used to really be left with, right? Symptoms and things like that. Now we can get really good data. But now we have to focus on good quality data, because just because it's data, I think before you were telling me about the toilet that's going to measure every poop you take. And it's not that there's not information in there. It's just what quality of information is that? And is that information that's creating more noise, or is it really solving a problem? So what I'd like to see is tools like ours that are getting good source information help develop better information in some of the more accessible means like apps and breath tests and stool tests. It's not that those don't have purpose, but they just need a little bit more information about what they're inferring from the data. So we have, more data is not better, I guess. You need good quality data to really understand something, and then you can layer on other forms of apps and things like that.
I'm going to guess that data is a bit like social media. Everybody likes to crank something out there, but only the good stuff is actually worth paying attention to.
Yeah, and when you layer AI on top of weak data, you can learn something, but what are you learning, right? And people have a limited attention, right? We can't be measuring everything. And so really making sure that we're putting good tools out there and that they're vetted and accepted by clinical community. So at Nimble Science, we're really geared towards clinically accepted tools working with the physicians and the providers, not necessarily the consumer biohacking, for the sole reason that we don't know enough to cut out the doctor right now. We need to get the doctor more informed on what we're learning, bring them into the picture, and then help the patient understand. As we grow to bigger and bigger and bigger data sets and more information, maybe there's a role where the consumer can directly do it, but it's not right now.
So, okay. Have you ever watched the movie The Island?
No.
Okay.
I do a lot of work. I don't.
There is a movie. It's from 20 years ago, maybe even 25 years ago.
Okay.
With Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson, both babies in this movie, right?
Yeah, must have been, yeah.
And they the whole thing is to grow a genetic double for the super wealthy.
Right.
And these people are underground in this silo, calling it the island. Right.
Okay.
And they have everything to gauge everything. Their clothing gauges, their toilet gauges. You can't have bacon today.
Right.
I like bacon. So as we move forward, getting optimization of health obviously has been in the thought process for us for decades.
Yeah.
Decades. Where are we at in a timeline of this capsule being what I get from my doctor versus that pack? Oh, you're over 50. Here's your yearly packet. Go home, collect the specimen, and drop it back off. Because I am the worst when it comes to capsule.
Well, I don't know. The capsule, you're still going to have to drop it off. You're still going to have to collect it. But if you get better information, you understand what that is. So we're going to be in clinic here in Alberta by late 2025. So we're one accreditation away from launching, and it'll be the world's first. Albertans will be the first ones able to measure their small intestine with a healthcare provider working together. And then we'll unleash it across Canada and then into other jurisdictions. But it's going to be here in Alberta first.
Wow.
And so it's going to be really exciting.
Can other people that are not Albertans participate in a study with you if they have proven IBS?
So we have, we'll prove the IBS. If you have suspected IBS, you can contact us. There's a website. I don't know how to get that out to you, but
we're going to make sure all of Sabina's information will be in the show notes. Absolutely.
So we have a website that allows you to see if the studies are of interest to you, and if you're interested in participating, there's a click you make, and they'll phone you and talk about it. But if you have suspected IBS or chronic bloating or GI issues, there's a study for you. If you're healthy, if you're really proud of your gut, we are defining primarily in Alberta, a little bit of participation from other jurisdictions in Canada, but we're defining for the first time small intestinal microbiome. So if you think you have a healthy gut, then we would love to have that just as much as if you're struggling. We have to learn. We're starting from ground zero. This is information that the world doesn't have. It's information that the big companies are interested in to understand how their products can be made better. And it's data that's helping us develop these clinical diagnostics. So, if you're proud of your gut or you're worried about your gut, there's a study for you.
Well, we had a guest on previously, and she's a dietitian, and that is her entire focus is on balancing gut health.
Yeah.
And she's like, once she started really understanding her own gut, it's like she never realized, the fermented fruits and vegetables and some things that you need in your body that we don't get in today's diet.
That's right.
And she's learned to love them. but it took a little bit of time because we aren't trained from, Gerber's baby food.
Right.
To actually intake some of the things that our gut truly does need in order to perform at its peak level.
Well, we're hoping that if we can tell you what's missing and we can show you that the work that you've done to eat certain things that may not be your favorite is helping, then that changes the cycle, right? Then you know that you're getting some feedback. Oh, this kefir is working for me or whatever. But first we have to focus on the clinical need, the diagnostics for IBS. But definitely a call out to any clinician, nutritionist, dietitian, working in the Calgary, Alberta area. Would love to. We're really building community among a clinical network to help us both understand the problem and deliver solutions.
Fun fact.
What can be more fun than poop?
A conference on building that goes by the acronym IBS. There's a massive building show in Las Vegas, and I giggle every time my husband goes to it. Because it's called the International Building Show.
Yeah.
And it's IBS.
I can share a very local similar. So Innovate Calgary, I'm sure you're familiar with Innovate Calgary. They used to be called, and technically on paper, they're still called UTI, University Technologies International. So I had to work at licensing their medical portfolio to a bunch of doctors with a company called UTI. And it was like, bad name.
Bad name. So
they fixed that, but that was a challenge we used to
watch
have.
Your acronyms, folks. Watch the acronyms.
Right.
If you had to throw something in there, throw something in there. But that always makes
conference
me
on building for IBS is a bad.
Yeah. I'm thinking, maybe it should be IBC, International Building Conference. I don't know.
Stick away from Alberta.
Yeah. I think
just stick with the names.
That always cracks me up. What's the greatest challenge you have faced getting this far? Now we have to qualify this again. You have a track record that you can pull from getting new initiatives off the ground. But what's been the challenge with this initiative?
Well, this one is particularly, so it's first ever. It's so exciting, right? First access to the small intestine. There's a lot of responsibility for that. And there's a lot of work that's really considered research in order to build up what are we looking at? Where are we going to use it? What's important and what's not? And we have to do that very carefully. But we're also venture-backed. So we have a fantastic group of VC-backed ventures that are supporting us. And they're looking for, things to go into the revenue generating stage. And so we've balanced that with a unique model where we're revenue generating from helping others do research. And we're learning at it as well. But yeah, fundraising is always a challenge. And we know that in this state right now with everything that's going on in the world, it's becoming a bigger challenge. So we have a round open now. It's always, if there's anyone in Calgary that wants to help create this born in Alberta solution, then we're always welcome to talk to us about possible investment. But it's challenging when you're not bringing something so new to market and you have a responsibility to do it right. Nobody needs more bad data or overpromised solutions. Your sister's suffering from IBS. She just needs to know what's going on and what's her best chance of addressing it.
How can she navigate it?
Yeah. She doesn't need pretty pictures or charts or things, she needs actual information. And so that's a big ask that we have to deliver.
Percentage-wise, how many people in North America do they estimate are battling IBS? I think you said a pretty big number earlier.
Yeah, it's about generally accepted. It's about 20%. 10% of doctors' visits are people struggling with IBS or IBS-related symptoms. That number can go way up to 80, depending on how you define things, and if you get into bacterial overgrowth without IBS. So it's a wild number, but we don't know because we can't measure it.
Yeah. So
how do you know? And how many people don't go to their doctor because they know that there's not a very good diagnostic path, so they just sort of deal with it on their own. So we don't really know.
What about things that we see sometimes in youth, young children, impacted bowels, things like that? Is any part of that, will any of this study help frustrated parents?
There's such a need for IBS specifically or SIBO in young patients. We are funded by Maternal Child Health here from the Alberta Children's Hospital through USEED. to help solve that problem. We have to get it right in adults first. We have to de-risk and totally understand the device's behavior in adults before we can go into kids. But we do have some Health Canada authorization to go down as low as 16, and we'll keep pushing that down and down because there's a massive need there.
There is, absolutely.
And they can't tell you their symptoms. So you need a reliable diagnostic tool to say what is happening in their gut.
Well, and I think that these conditions, just based on my experiences in my lifetime, that, I mean, these things start when people can't even explain
That's right.
how they feel.
Yeah.
So having some sort of vehicle that, in all reality, what you're proposing is non-invasive. We're not talking about cutting somebody open. We're not talking about pumping any weird
Having a glass of
chemicals
water
into
at home.
water.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess the only part would be make sure that you catch it when it comes out, right?
Or you don't. It's a piece of, it can go down the toilet and it's not a problem. Yeah, we have a phenomenal safety record and it's a very safe device, but we do need to understand it in
Absolutely.
humans, because children have a very evolving microbiome as well. So if we don't know what we're looking at, which now we're starting to have a very good sense of what small intestinal health looks like, then we can start to build that out in children, which is, it's changing. But so many questions there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in all reality, you know how there's all these, gut intuition and things. If we're not comfortable, if things aren't working there, it literally, I believe, this is just personal. I'm like, it impacts every aspect of your life.
It's real.
It's real.
I come in, I'm an engineer, biomedical engineering. I was never a microbiome specialist. And so every time we get a phone call from a researcher or a company wanting to use our capsule to investigate something, I'm blown away. Cystic fibrosis, obsessive compulsive disorder, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, diabetes, heart conditions, you name it, oncology. The applications of the gut-brain disorder are being mapped and understood. They're not quite at the clinical level yet, which is what we hope to help address. But it's not.
Yeah, because they say
gut feeling comes from something.
There's
it's
actual
massive.
direct connection from brain to gut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
how you absorb your medication, whether your medication's working for you, what dose of medication you should be having. These are all questions that we can answer by accessing the gastrointestinal system accurately.
Okay. So to wrap this up, if somebody has IBS, or I'm going to just throw this in there, if you're an adult and maybe you don't feel that you have IBS, but maybe you had clinical issues when you were a child and you still have.
If you've got a funny gut,
anything,
and you're curious about it, or if you have a healthy gut that you're proud of, contact us. We regularly recruit. We have an excellent team that recruits and runs clinical studies across Canada, but mostly here locally. And we can get you, we'll tell you about the trial and you make a decision about whether you want to participate. And either way, look for us later 2025, starting to release this to the Alberta public first.
Amazing. Now, I'm going to close this out on one kind of more on the business side of what you're doing. What would you say to creatives like yourself? And that's what you are. You're thinking with a solution oriented. I see a problem. I want to fix it. Yeah. I want to find a solution. I want to contribute to the solution. What is the advice you would give to somebody that's listening to this, that they see something they know that they want to create a solution to? How best can they navigate that in moving forward?
I mean, there's a phenomenal, you've got to plug into the environment here. We've got Plug and Play, Platform Calgary, Innovate Calgary. There's so many ways to plug into the ecosystem, to build not only connections among other founders, but also to get the advice you need. But you really have to figure out the business model of what you're doing, because some of the biggest things that we think we're working on, one of the bigger challenges, it really takes an innovative business model as much as it takes an innovative product, because the path doesn't exist for it. It's not like you're putting another widget on the line and offering an incremental solution. So you really have to get advice on that business model, which we think we've nailed.
I'm excited. I'm excited to watch all of this move forward. Sabina, I can't thank you enough for everything you're working on. This is amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on the Back to Business podcast. Be sure to visit calpeteclub.com calpeteclub.com to find out more about upcoming events, networking opportunities, and membership. If you are not already a valued member at the CPC, where we are proudly connecting and supporting Calgary's business leaders.